Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like or comment on my video. Consider subscribing to my channel, and if you dislike the content, please leave a comment. Now, I am going to be giving a little bit of a war update. Now, this video is going to cover 90% of the war that happened with Genesis Federation. Now, recently what happened was Genesis Federation has totally defeated Elysium. Elysium is breaking apart by the looks of it, or they're falling out of the region where they used to occupy. That's Paragon Soul. Now, how do you find the region of Paragon Soul? You open your map, you go in, you hit the search button, and you type in Paragon Soul. It's one of the easiest ways for you to find it. Okay, I'm a little bit jammed. Now, I have found it in this here, but if you want to find it in the grand scheme of things, open your New Eden map and look down south. Now, right at the bottom, you have Paragon Soul and Astoria. Now, these two areas have been taken by Genesis Federation. That means that you're going to be looking at them making a push out towards the other areas. Now, anybody in the lower reaching areas is either going to have to ally up with them or consider having to have to fight them. Now, the thing about it is they have a very rich ground in terms of where they are in Nullsec. The fact that they are in a deep Nullsec area means they don't have to worry about anybody really catching them on their way to and from their location. Most of them are actually going to sit in this area. They're going to purchase up gear. They're going to sell gear within the local trading systems. They're not going to go all the way out to Jita. Now, the simple reason for it is Nullsec is a major PvP location, and most players in PvP are right now sitting at a nice lumpy sum of ISK. Those in war, obviously, it's a different story. For those like Elysium who have suffered the loss and are right now limping away, basically, they don't have the ISK to keep purchasing and keep their combat in that region. So let's have a look at a few other things when it comes to playing this game in terms of PvP. Now, when you play a PvP format in your game, you need to be thinking about everything in steps. Now, your first step in playing a PvP game format is I need to think about who I am facing. Now, example, if I wanted to fight Genesis Federation, I'm not saying that I want to fight Genesis Federation. Considering their numbers, it will be a heavy fight and it will take a lot of collaboration from an international corporation just to fight them properly. Now, let's analyze exactly what they did to Elysium. What they did to Elysium was they drove into their sector, they pushed hard, they fought in nice, neat formations and tactics, and they took the entire base. So what this gave them was a nice aspect win. Now, I like the screen. I feel it a little bit more soothing than looking at the station. So basically what they did was they pushed a straightforward attack. Now, the straightforward attack allowed them to take a massive win in terms of the fight that they were fighting. The fact that Elysium is right now losing so much of ground and dropping back means that Avalanche and Ops Force are now going to have to face off against a stronger push from Genesis Federation. Now, Ops Force is stretched out very thin with a number of wars across the Nullsec. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to handle it. They might also be in the same boat as Elysium at the moment, just because of how many corporations they're fighting. They have at least three options. One is to kick out corps who aren't following the rules and playing nice. Two is to form treaties with alliances and back out of the wars if possible. And those are just the basics of the options that they have. There is another option, and that is to reform up their strategies, rework their strategies, and play a lot smarter gameplay. Now, the fact that they're shying away from putting themselves out into the public light on other people's channels and giving a lot of commentary says that there are problems within their leadership. Now, the moment you have that going around and people figuring that this is a possibility, you have a lot of negative say on yourself, and you have a lot more people willing to take you on in combat. Now, the over aggressive behavior, I understood where it came from. If I'm correct, Ops Force or OP4S have a very good standing in EVE Online. Now, the EVE Online community was a lot more PC game orientated. That means that they get on for a set amount of time, they play when they want to play, and they get off. Now, with the PC gaming community, the difference in times of play is much more abrupt. PC gameplay players are going to give you a lot of breaks when it comes to combat. They're going to get bored really fast if there isn't much action, and they're going to fall away from things like camping and things like that. However, in the terms of the mobile format of the game, players don't have to get bored. You can rotate camps. In other words, you can have a team of 40 players out roaming the nullsec, and you can have 200 players holding the camp on a station. And every 30 minutes, you can have them swapping out, giving the next guy the location for Inquisitors, Dead Space, Scouts. And each time 40 players come in, 40 players go out, and they can keep rotating like this here, changing each one of their formations and their positions, making it more difficult for you to fight them. So how would you contest someone like Genesis Federation? If I was going to fight Genesis Federation, the first thing I would do is get a ton of throwaway ships. Now, what are throwaway ships? Throwaway ships are your easy to use vessels. Now, I'm going to open this quickly for you, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Now, in terms of frigates, you could be running a lot of these ships to help you out in combat, but it's not these at the top that you want. It's actually these right here. Now, these ships have a little bit better stats and a little bit better power. Wait, sorry, this is the wrong one. They have a little bit better power and a little bit better resistance. As you can see, status Weber fire capacitor need minus 80%. Afterburner, you can see that they're gaining a lot of speed, a lot of power, and they don't have that much of overall defense to start with. But what this ship has going for it is speed. It may not have the biggest capacitor, it may not have a lot of a power grid, but running the ship correctly will help you get everything you need in terms of combat. So if I were to, say for example, want to beat Genesis Federation, I'd buy 1,000 Condor 2s. Now, the number may sound a bit heavy, and considering that it's 1,000,000 a piece, 1,000 is going to cost me over 1 billion. So 3 billion expenditure, let's say at maximum for these Condors. That's just the ship on its own. Now, they can hold 2 mid slots, which is going to be your big takeaway on the ship. You're going to go buy standard Weber fires and standard disruptors. Now, why are you buying warp disruptors? The simple reason for it is you want to catch enemies and destroy their ships. And how many of these do you have? 1,000. How many members do you have? 1,000. So does it mean each member gets one? No. This is only meant for your PvE players. Now, why am I saying this is just going to be meant for your PvE players? Because your PvE players are going to play one important tactic for you. You are going to equip them with a micro warp drive and an afterburner. Basically, these ships are going to be destroyed. Regardless of what you do, they're going to get destroyed in combat. You're going to expand a lot of them. Now, expecting it from a PvP corp, I'm expecting you to have at least 200 PvE only players. This is where you're going to use them. Divide them into groups of about 50. In the 50, you're going to have maybe 10 with Weber Fire and Neutralizer fit-ups, and you're going to have 10 with Disruptor and Weber Fire setups. Now, why am I putting Weber Fires in all of this? Because you want those vessels slowed down to hit them hard and destroy them quickly. Now, following this, you're going to have to form up your next part of your combat. Now, I said 10 and 10. There's still other factors that you can put into this whole fight, and that's where they're coming in. They're just going in to debuff your enemies. You're using these cheap small ships in PvP as throwaways. So 50 at a time is a good enough number to send in. Everybody runs Weber fires. That is the way that it goes. And 20 guys on one target to paint them, basically. So if everybody slows that ship down, it's basically going to be stopped. And hitting a shield tank or an armor tank with no speed is going to rip through them like they weren't even resisting you to start with. Now, moving down your next lot of players, your PvP players, you are going to be setting them up in the sniper vessels. Now, you do get destroyer snipers, and at the moment you don't get the cruiser snipers. So here's where you're going to go with your next lot of PvP players. Now, you're going to put them in snipers and covert ops. Now, covert ops can go invisible and help you mark out locations to warp to. That is going to be for your fleets. And what you're going to be doing with these snipers is you're going to be overloading them for distance on attack. Now, as you can see, the first thing they give you is a 25% velocity, increased damage, increased explosive, and then you're getting your bonuses to your debuffs. If you look at it, you got 4 high slots, you got 3 low slots, 3 mid slots. So you can also use them to debuff anything that can be debuffed in that range. Or you can use them with support type initiatives. Not a good idea, but it is a possibility. They are a little bit better in terms of health. They can stand up to the fire of most of the vessels, but they always go in second. Now, from all of these corps, there is one last corps to discuss, and that is going to be your industrial corps. So your industrial corps are going to once more run in frigates, but they aren't going to run in those same frigates that I said you're holding for your PvE corp. They're going to run in the cheapest possible frigates you can buy, and that is your level 2 frigates. Sorry. Now you're going to buy tons of these, and what you're going to do with them is simple. You're going to take them and you're going to run them straight into the battle for one purpose and one purpose only: to distract. Now, because they know that the small ships are giving them grief, the moment something like this warps into the field of view with the micro warp drive, you don't even have to equip them with weapons, just cheap micro warp drives on all of them. They're just going to micro warp drive in, come in close in numbers. Let's say that you have at least 200 to 300 players also in industry and that type of corporations. Having them warp in close and take the fire, it's going to cost them insurance certificates to keep getting the ships back, but it's not really all that expensive overall. You can even let them throw away the ship, don't even bother about repairing it, and this is where you are winning. All of this is taking off the distraction from those more expensive ships that are about 1 million a piece, and they're also taking away the distraction from the players who are hitting with the heavy assault. And you can get through at least 15 to 16 players in the time it takes them to get rid of those small condors who just warped in and were flocking around them like a bunch of bees. Make sure that they're keeping their ranges and their optimal orbits down to something like 1 kilometer. You want them as close to those ships as possible. You want those ships to be irritated with them. You want them to focus all their debuffs on that one vessel. And once all of this has been set in, you move in and you start cleaning out. 15 out of 400 may not seem a very good number, but it is a good push. And you keep moving. That's 15 before they get through those little annoying flies where they're going to swat around. Also in 50s they'll come in. Now remember, I said in 50s and I gave you the numbers of about 200. That means you have 4 of these fleets. 4 times 15 destroyed in one go before any major losses are felt. That there is 15, 60 of their players gone. Now, they aren't going to be running small, cheap ships all over the place. They're going to be running expensive ships. And I haven't even touched on your PvP Corp's main course of battle. Now, for your PvP Corp, there remains 2 other options in what they're going to be able to deploy when it comes to combat. They're going to be able to deploy cruisers and battle cruisers. Now, deploying battle cruisers in PvP is a little bit premature, but you can go for it. Now, deploying a nice strong battle cruiser means you're going to do a nice heavy dealing damage, and this is where you're going to use it to try and gain those numbers very quickly. They come in right at the edge of this battle. They don't come in the start. Make sure that they're going towards the station, and this is once you have your beachhead set up. So once you've had that 15 open up the head of your station, whoever is blocked into a station, camped in, get them putting out with their cheapest vessels to just fire on whatever they can. Doesn't matter what they have, just pull it out. Now the numbers is going to cause the area to lag out a lot the more combat that's going on. So in this process, you make sure that your covert ops players are sitting on other spots within the battle. Remember, everything is getting laggy. They're not going to notice someone popping out in the middle of their entire formation. So this is where your battle cruisers and your cruisers come out. You're going to have tank builds in your cruisers. You're going to have them form up a line to protect your sniper vessels and your long range fighters. And they are going to hold up with shield walls and things like that there. You're going to start building up your wall from your dock, slowly and surely pushing your enemy out. Now, for your assault part of the battle, you're going to deploy these battle cruisers into those ranges where these players are now experiencing massive lag. This is just breaking up a camp with a highly um, planned attack. This is for a very, very good corp because you can't just risk playing non-stop destroyers. You might only get those 15 kills and that's it for your entire combat. For the loss of 400 vessels, it's not going to be worth it, and you're going to have to keep recycling that whole strategy over and over and over again. They're going to make more money off the entire encounter, and you aren't going to really have that type of advantage to keep pushing forward. Now, once you've deployed these massive battle cruisers in the right areas, have them open fire on just one target. Now, that's going to be the responsibility of the covert ops. He's going to be giving the fleet instruction who to target. Now, as you target them and destroy them with these big battle cruisers, that's going to mean a whole lot of their lines are going to start breaking apart. And you want them to form miscommunication. With 3, 4, 5 pronged strategies running at the same time, you can also run into the same problem if you aren't communicating well. Make sure that your teams are isolated in in 4-piece cells. That means a covert ops with all of these, and you have your fleets planned correctly. Now, once you start attacking like this and you cause the breakdown of communication, they have two options. One is to call for uh, reinforcements. So they're basically going to call for other players to jump into the battle with them. And the other thing that they have an option to do is they're going to call for players to reinforce them within the area. Now, that means players who are gate camping are going to jump into the battle to try and help them get more gain. And that's when you are starting to win the battle. That is a sign that you are breaking a camp. And once the gates start weakening, that's when the remainder of your forces come in. As I said, this is about 400 ships in. No, wait. The 400 is just your PvP and not your PvP, your PvE and Industry Corp. And you have deployed an additional 200, an additional 100 to each of them from your PvP Corp. So about 800 players. The remaining 200 will come in on a single gate and break the camp. Once the camp is broken, they're most likely going to receive an order to fall back to another location to build up for a counter attack. Now, in the time when it's coming for the counter attack, is when you have to plan your defense again correctly. Remember exactly what I said to break that gate camp, break the camp out on the station. They can use it to break you, and it's much easier to break you instead of the same way that you broke them. You now need to think about how am I going to pull off this defense. Remember, you only 1,000, they 3,000. Your next step in that whole combat is going to be deploying these little small mounting strategies. So you're going to hold up a covert ops in, say for example, the sector over, and another one on the other sector over. So basically, you have this covert ops giving you a line of what's coming into your sectors. Now, you need to be ready and you have to be prepared to fight each type of vessel and each type of formation they're going to pull. Now, considering Genesis Federation is really, really powerful, you're going to put away all of those snipers, everything in the backup location where you just launched from. So all of those ships that you use to win the area, anything that's remaining from them, back to your backup location. Now, they are scouting for that area guaranteed. They're looking for where you're mounting up your reserve attacks. Now, you go to that backup location, you dock in whatever ships you can, and you get back to that sector as fast as possible. Forming up attacks takes on average 15 to 20 minutes. It can take up to 2 hours for some corporations to form up an assault, which is where most of their losses in terms of battle come in. Now, when a formation is formed up very quickly in 15 minutes, it does have flaws within it. It has massive flaws for you to exploit. Now, you need to have planned for this before you took back your camped out sector. Number one, have yourself ready to throw away ships. Have them plotting to hit you the same way you hit them. Counter their offense styles. Now, I don't know their exact offense style. I don't know whether they form that big droning hub and push into a sector and then open out. I don't know whether they warp in all at once to the dock and push out from the dock. There is also another way in which you can break a camp. Or whether they're going to play that small tactic that I just said, where you actually deploy a whole lot of covert ops and you lock onto locations to jump into combat. Now, all of this being said, Genesis Federation has played a fantastic game, but they haven't played the best possible game. Why am I saying they haven't played the best possible game? Because their opponents didn't play a very good battle. Now, I do have videos, I do have a whole lot of stuff that I could show you. However, it's going to expose who's giving me information. And from OP4S, I don't want the guy to get in trouble. The guy from Genesis Federation, I don't want you to get into trouble. The guy from OP4S is basically telling me that they're in turmoil. I don't understand what's going on within OP4S. Even with informants inside their corp giving me information, it's gibberish. Basically, OP4S doesn't know what's going on. They don't know what's heads and tails of the whole situation. They don't even know why they're in certain wars. Their leadership thinks that they were attacked by all these alliances to start with. They don't know whether they aggressed anybody. They don't know whether that 15,000 is real. And basically, they're in a panic mode. So things like this happen when there's bad leadership. Genesis Federation has fantastic leadership. They broke it up well. They have a lot of sub leadership committees and they're working perfectly. CNK has a ton of sub working committees. They're very lax with their discipline on their players. They give them freedom to do what they should have freedom to do. And that is the way that it makes the corp very, very friendly. The one thing that they do is they do punish players for breaking the rules. Now, if there is a rule that is given, like you're not allowed to attack a certain corp or alliance, if they go and they attack them and it comes up to them through diplomacy, the person who attacked is forced to replace what they destroyed. So if you destroyed a 1.5 billion ISK ship, you're most likely going to pay the corp 1.5 billion, or you're going to leave the corp just because of that heavy battle that you took on. And they do replace ships. I've noticed that with Trimark. I've noticed that with CNK. I'm suspecting that Genesis Federation also does that when their players are at fault, making them replace any allied ships that they destroyed accidentally or because of being in a foul mood and attacking unnecessarily. And I suspect if the player refuses, they're going to attack that player non-stop when they try to leave the sector. So basically, this is how they play the game in general. And these types of discipline are the way to go. You make sure you don't start wars with all of your allies. Right now, OP4S against Genesis Federation is only with one ally. They basically just have Avalanche to help them. And Avalanche is spread thin defending the Reds in Catch, and they spread thin fighting in Astoria to try and take Astoria and get into Paragon Soul. Now, getting into Paragon Soul means they have to pass through Genesis Alliance space, and that means that there's a massive Alliance space for Genesis. Now, obviously, they're not going to be defending every single route and every single part, but however, it gives them a very good opportunity. They can set up camps on every route you're going to use to get back to your base. They just need to know where is the jump point out of their area. Like if there's 2 or 3 jump points out, they're just going to focus big groups on those areas and hit you the moment you try to get out. And you can destroy fleets very quickly using that method. It is one of the best ways to win battles. So I'm going to cut this video off over here. That's all that I have on a strategy for fighting these battles. And that's all the little bit of talk that I have. I do not hate those corps exactly. I'm actually just trash talking them a bit because they are in war with me. And some of them are in war with people who I consider friends. So that's why you're going to see a lot of trash talk from me. However, the one thing which is real is my criticism on their strategies and gameplay. That is really a problem. You need to work on it. You need to work on the way your alliance is formed up. If you have a PvP run, allow them to hit every neutral in the sector. If you have a PvE corp, allow them to run and hit every Inquisitor, every Scout in an area. You have allies, give your allies freedom in your area. Don't go and encroach them with, if you farm in our area, we're going to destroy your ships. That is not the way to go. Your allies aren't enemies. That's how you're making so many enemies. Think about it carefully. Anybody who is blue is free to rule in your area, basically. Not rule, sorry, free to roam in your area. So, thank you all for watching. Have a good day.